Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Brandyol Media Podcast. Today, we'll be starting a new journey. We'll be starting to talk about business. Today, I have a very special guest with me. His name is Mr. Aamir. He has been doing e-commerce for the past 5 years and has gotten to a point where he's even scaled in the past 30 days to a point where he's reaching over 90K in revenue, and to be specific, 92K in the past 30 days. That is a very big feat. And today we're going to be talking about his journey in e-commerce, and not only that, but how you as a beginner can even get started in e-commerce.
Thanks for having me. As you already mentioned, my name is Aamir. I've been doing e-commerce for more than 5 years now. I started during COVID, and that was the time when everybody was buying online. So that was the thing probably helped me. I have MBA in marketing, and also I have certification from MIT for data marketing analytics. Now I'm helping business to scale their e-commerce side and their data marketing.
Very nice. So now that you've talked about what your business is at right now, do you remember your first sale?
Yes, I was very excited actually. This is a story. So when I started my e-commerce, I was confused like everyone. I was not sure what to do, and I was looking for different options. And in fact, I was almost very close to sign a deal with a UPS franchise in my area in the Woodlands. So it was almost 350K investment, and I looked at the number, so it was not looking very good. But then I realized probably going for online e-commerce side is less risky, less investment, and might have a better potential to scale up. So when I started, I was double-minded. I didn't know what to do. So first I prepared myself. I took the MIT certification for data marketing analytics. As you know, everything on the online sales happen digitally. Mm-hmm. So I thought having good data marketing skills will help me. So I converted my MBA more towards the data marketing analytics. And when I started, I got the sales actually pretty quick. So when my first sales came, I was very excited. And like within a couple of months, I passed 10K, and like at the end of the year, I'm talking about 2020K, my revenue was already like in a couple of tens of thousands of dollars. So I was very happy.
And this is your first sale on Amazon, you're saying?
Yes, my first sale came on Amazon, but the same year I started selling on Etsy, and then after some time I started selling on Walmart, eBay, and now we are selling on all the big platforms.
So what would you say is your, like, to a beginner, let's say, right? If you wanted someone to just start e-commerce,
Mm-hmm.
what would you say is like that one platform, like if you start that one thing will make you big?
I would say Amazon. Amazon is a really big platform. If you look at the number, last year Amazon revenue globally was $630 billion, and more than 60% came from the US only. So it's a big platform. I would suggest if you want to pick one platform, go for Amazon. And of course, you need to do your due diligence. You need to do a good product research, sourcing and everything. But Amazon is your to-go platform.
Okay, so if you're so sure on Amazon being like if you get into it and if you do your best, you will become successful. What do you think is the biggest fear when people start?
So I spoke to so many people, and I feel like the biggest problem is people don't take action. They think a lot, like overthinking. They don't know where to start, what is the first step to take. I suggest people that take the decision. Even a wrong decision, even a failure is better than not taking an action, because the cost of failing in the e-commerce is not very high. So do your due diligence, but take calculated risk and take your first step, because even if you fail, the whole journey will teach you a lot of lessons, and then you can fine tune and you can tweak your processes and you can come back and you can restart. So I think the biggest problem I see people to have a lot of fear of taking decisions.
And let's say, so decision making is one thing, right? Let's say you have made that decision that like I want to start, right? But one thing that most people say that they fear in the beginning is losing money, right? That's one big factor. Like I have to invest this money, and what if I don't make profit on it? What if I don't get that return on investment? Did you, like, personally, did you start off with much money?
So actually this is a real fear. This is a real business. So all business, they have some risk. But think about it. Like my own example, was about to start with UPS investing 350K. Instead of that, I just started with like 10-20K. So I already, like, my risk was already reduced. So e-commerce, of course there is a risk, but the risk is smaller than any other business, and the upside potential is very high. So when you start a business, you look for the risk and reward balance. I think e-commerce side has a very good balance of risk and reward. So of course there will be a risk, but take a calculated risk. I suggest people not to start with a lot of investment. I suggest start at least like 2 to 5K, but if you want to really do as a business, 25 to 30K, but not more than that. And why is that? Because during the process you learn a lot of things. So for example, you invest 25-30K and you learn a lot of things, you fine tune, and when you need to scale up, then you can go to the product that are more successful. So when you start e-commerce, you don't start with one product, you start with multiple products and you see the results. If you if you launch 5 products, I would say mostly 2 to 3 products will be a good launch, and maybe the others are not so good. So you start with the trial, and after the trial period you invest more money to scale up.
Okay, so would you say, like, if we were to begin now, right, as a beginner, let's say someone wants to try and make an e-commerce store right now, what would you say are the first 3 steps to actually begin? Would you say, like, it's just to source like multiple different products and then put majority, let's say, like you said, 5 products up and just see where that takes you? Like, what would you say are the first couple of steps?
So first step, I would say, take it as a business. So go and register your LLC. A lot of people say, why to spend $300-400, LLC? Well, if you are not taking it as a business, you are not investing in a proper structure, then you will have trouble later on. So from the day one, take it as a business, invest in the LLC, open an LLC. That is step 1. Then do some research about the product. There are tools available, Helium 10, Jungle Scout, and you can find a lot of videos how to use it. I mean, this is very basic, so you need to use those, but then there are some other steps that you need to do. So go Helium 10, Jungle Scout, or any other tool, look for the competition and demand. So economics is still the same, demand and supply. So the principle of high demand and low competition, that what you need to take care of it. So you go for a good product research, pick up 3 to 5 products at least. So what I suggest, go for product hunt, come up with 10 to 20 product, and then shortlist 3 to 5 at least. Go for sourcing. So the third step is come up with a good source. So the 90% or more people, they source it from China, because you find a lot of option, it's economical. So when you go to China or Alibaba, look for the supplier, verified supplier, trade assured, and make sure they have at least 2 to 3 years experience on Alibaba, and also they have export in North America. So if you go to Alibaba and you go to the suppliers details, it shows all the details. So make sure they have experience in exporting their goods to North America, and it should be at least 25% plus, because I've seen a lot of people struggling with supplies on Alibaba because they don't have the experience how to export properly. And now after the tariff and everything, it's important to deal with people who have experience about the shipping in the US.
But would you say like China is the best route to go when you're looking for manufacturers and those products?
Yes, almost always, unless like if you know some special, like in India, Pakistan, or other places, you see some like some leather products in Pakistan are very famous, or like some sport goods from some areas. But in most cases, I would say China is the safer and more economical option.
Okay, so you've talked about like the sourcing of the product and how people can make those first steps. What would you say is like the biggest mistake that beginners make?
Okay, so the biggest mistake people do, one, they depend on overseas VAs. The overseas VAs or the virtual assistant, almost always I've seen that they did something wrong, or in some cases illegal, that caused the seller to lose their account, and which is very, very serious. So once you lose your Amazon account or Walmart account, you cannot open again. So it is very important, do not give your account information to overseas VAs. If you have to give them a child user access, but with a very limited access. A lot of people nowadays I come to me and they complain the same thing. Almost always overseas VAs, they cause trouble. So this is one of the mistake people do. And second, people do not take it as a real business. They take it like hobby.
To backtrack you a little bit, for the people that don't understand exactly what a overseas VA is, can you explain it a little bit?
So what happens, a lot of people from overseas, especially Pakistan, India, or other places, they contact you and they tell you, oh, Amazon or Walmart, they're doing so good and you can make a lot of money and we can help you. And they tell you some profit split and everything. And then they ask your information for your business, for your account. So what happens if you give your account information, they start selling on your behalf. Nowadays, a lot of people using fake USPS labels, and mostly overseas VAs are involved. And you can think of the consequences using the fake USPS labels, what consequences you can face. The VAs overseas, they don't have to face any consequences, so they don't understand. But you will be the one who will be facing the problem.
Mm-hmm. So I have heard of a lot of issues when people say that the VA made a big move and it completely destroyed their business, and the VA had no relation to the business itself, and the person that was connected to the LLC was the one that got harmed.
True, that is very common. That is very common. So I keep telling people, please don't do this. Either do it yourself or hire someone locally. But whoever you hire, try to keep the main admin power with you. Do not give all the access to anybody else.
Okay, so let's get kind of into the specifics of e-commerce now. So you said that these are certain steps to source the products. After you source the products, right? And you said pick 5 certain products and then dim it down to 3 or 2 are the ones that are actually selling. How do you really, because there's certain platforms like how you said Helium 10, Jungle Scout, that they show you the bestseller rate, BSR, they show you the reviews, they show you this, they show you the revenue that people are actually making from the product itself. How do you, after all of this and after you've actually sourced them, after you've already tried to sell them, how do you tell that a product is actually selling?
So what we suggest, First, start with Jungle Scout or Helium 10, whatever tools you want to use. Come up at least 20 to 30 products. So make a list of 20 to 30 products, and basic criteria, at least, I mean, there could be different criteria, but like at least 10K revenue per month. At least you need to have a competition level where in the first page you have at least 25% seller who are less than 100 reviews. So that will tell you about the competitions. As I said, basic economic principle, demand and supply. How you know about the demand? Through the keyword volume. So you check the keyword volume, how big is the keyword volume and how much is the revenue for that product. So you need to go with the product that making at least 10K per month. Of course, higher the better, but you need to come up with the sweet spot where you have less competition and reasonable demand. So you go with the keyword volume, then the revenue. Then you look also what is the competition, how you determine what is the competition. There are different formulas. One of the way is to see how many listing you are getting in first page without a lot of reviews, and you need to look for the organic listing, not the sponsored listing. So on the first page, if you see more than 25% of the listing are less than 100 reviews, that is probably your go-to product. So you list all these products, 20, 30, as much as you have, and then you brainstorm, look for the sourcing, look for the best pricing. There are so many other factors. So demand is one thing, supply, demand, and then you look for what is the best pricing you can get from China or from another place. What is your competitive advantage? We prefer that you should have at least 50% gross margin for the product. So if you have less than 50% gross margin, don't go for that product, because there will be a lot of other expenses. Amazon 15% fee plus the marketing, shipping, and so many other costs. So 50% plus gross margin. You go for at least 3 to 5. So when I say 3 to 5, that is the least. So if you can go, if you have a better budget, go for 10 products, but at least 3 to 5 products, because the way Amazon algorithm work, if you just launch one product, you cannot really understand if it is a success or failure. 20% of your launch is usually a super hit, 20% is okay, 20% is below average, and the rest are probably failure. So if you just launch with one product, you won't be able to see the full spectrum. So I suggest at least go for 5. If you can go for 10, that will give you even a better idea. Don't go more than 10, because this is a trial period where you're looking at the product potential. So you buy few samples, you list them, and then you see what is the sales velocity. Sales velocity is the biggest factor to bring your BSR higher. So if your sales rank is higher, you get more sales. So you start with 10 products, then you look at the result, and probably you will find 2 to 3 best product that you can scale.
Mm-hmm. So you're talking about sourcing products, you're talking about actually getting those products on market, but when it comes to finding the product itself, so let's say like I'm here today, right? I look on Amazon, I'm scrolling for products that I want to find and I want to sell on Amazon, but it's so saturated. Like every single day there's more people posting different products and same of this, like different versions of the same product. So let's say private label and wholesale, right? Let's say we have a mop on Amazon, right? There's so many people selling like the same mop on Amazon. How do you actually compete with this type of saturation, and how do you find the best product that can actually compete with these other people?
Excellent question. Actually, this is the probably biggest problem for the newcomers. So first, let me tell you, wholesale and private label, I don't prefer people to go for wholesale for a couple of reasons, especially if you're newcomers. Wholesale, you need to get a brand approval. They are not going to give you a brand approval unless you have a million or 10 tens of millions of dollar revenue. So and again, overseas VAs, they tell you, okay, we can do that for you, and they make fake invoices. And I'm telling you, do not do that. I have seen so many instances where people using fake invoices and their account got terminated. So again, don't go for wholesale as a newcomer. Try private label. Private label is a little bit difficult.
Can you explain it for?
So private label is something where you come up with your own product, and you can sell any product as a private label. You just need to have your own listing. You don't go to anyone's listing and add yourself as a me too or attach to someone listing. For example, Nike shoe. So if you're doing wholesale, you go to Nike shoe listing and you add yourself. Okay, I'm selling also. You see the competition level, because hundreds of other sellers selling the same thing. But instead of that, you come up with your own product, any product. For example, some kitchen knives. So you can come up with a kitchen knife. You can source it from Alibaba, and you just put your company name on it, and that's your private label. Some people think private label brand is a very big thing and you have to invest a lot of money. No, it's not like that. It's actually less expensive than wholesale, because almost all the big wholesalers, they require you to buy a lot of quantity, so the MOQ is very high, approval process is very tough. So the best, safest process is private label, where you go, you buy your product from Alibaba and you just brand it with your company name. And it's very easy. You tell Alibaba supplier that this is your company name, and they will put the company name on the product.
But I have heard that whenever you're trying to do private label, right, and you source a manufacturer for a certain thing, let's take knives, kitchen knives, for example. You find a manufacturer for kitchen knives and you want to do private label with them. Is there a thing where one certain company, let's say for us, for example, we make a company and we're selling kitchen knives. Is that certain manufacturer, can they only sell to us for a private label, or can they sell to other people, but also the other people put their logo on the same product? How does that work?
Okay, so they can sell to anyone, but your brand, your logo, they cannot put on anyone's product. So for the safe side, what we recommend that you go and register your trademark with USPTO. So if you registered your brand with USPTO, nobody can take your brand. And Amazon gives some advantage. If you have a trademark registration, you get A+ content, which is very important. So A+ content is additional images and videos and brand story that you can add with your listing. If you do not have A+ content, it will be very difficult for you to compete with other listing. So if you do your brand registration with USPTO, you will get that advantage.
What exactly is A+ content?
So A+ content, when you do the listing, if you go to Amazon and you find something, let's say headphone, you get a lot of listing, you open the listing, you will see that there will be 5 or 6 images on the side, and then 5 or 6 bullet points, highlights. And then when you scroll down, you will not see any images if your brand does not have A+ content. So you will see is only some description, some text. But the brands who got registered with USPTO, they get A+ content, means you can add additional photos, images, brand stories, and even videos that helps to give more details about your product.
Also, so they basically give priority to those that are actually like making their brand known, and they give them extra perks to even make their content more engaging.
Exactly. And actually there are some other advantage, enhanced brand content, and even in PPC campaign, when you do the marketing in Amazon, marketing is done through the PPC campaign, which is pay per click. When you run a PPC campaign without the brand registry, you cannot do the brand sponsored campaign, which allows you to run ads as a video ads and some other advantages. If you do not have that trademark, you have to run a simple campaign which most of the time is not competitive.
Okay. And okay, so now that we've talked about everything in the specifics on how to get started, sourcing products, sourcing everything, what does a work day look like for you?
So
a day in the life.
So I'll tell you, people see, one of the mistake I see, people take it as a hobby, not a real business. This is a real business. I'll give you some numbers. So the average Amazon seller makes 290K per year. Think about it, 290K per year by selling on Amazon. People like you and me, they can make it. Compared to the brick and mortar business, which requires hundreds of thousands of investment, 10 to 12 hours of day working on the shop or your workplace, and a lot of risk, a lot of overhead. Compared to that, Amazon, you start with 20-30K, you do not have overhead, you do not have other expenses, but still you need to take it as a serious business. You have to invest
Right.
your time. I suggest people to take it as a full-time business. Give 6 to 8 hours of your day, do the product research. There are so many things. Being an entrepreneur, you have to wear so many caps. Look for the data, keyword research. So when you run the PPC campaign, my practice is every week I look at my PPC campaign, I look at the keywords that are giving me a good sales and the keyword that are taking a lot of money. I separate them, I then fine tune, and after some time you will see your ACOS, or the cost of your campaign, decreases a lot. In the beginning you will be close to 50-60% ACOS, and once you start running good fine tuning and everything, your cost goes to below 20%, and anything below 20% ACOS to me is a very good number. So give full time and energy to your business, and look for every aspect, and try to delegate some work. There are some good people working, freelancers or people in agencies. Give work to them, the work that you cannot do, and try to focus on business development. As a business owner, your main focus should be on business development.
So what would you say that this is the reason that your business went from, let's say, like $1,000 business, a $10,000 business, to like that 100K mark or that $1 million mark?
So yes, so that is a journey. So as you mentioned, last 30 days, one of my brand, we did 92K. It's actually over $92,000 in 30 days, and it's almost 100% growth from the last year. So how we achieve it? It's not a rocket science. It's an execution. We focus on the data. So I believe on data driven strategy. We look at the data and we take decision based on data. We do not take emotional decisions. We look at data, we fine tune. So we added some more products. We keep looking for the best product. We keep adding, and the product that we already have, we fine tune and we optimize the listing. This is very important. You cannot make one listing and just keep it as it is forever, because you get so much competition. You need to look for the listing. You need to see where you can improve.
And so you would say that this is like where your real growth is, in optimizing like the small details themselves.
Exactly. So yes, that's what we do. We look at the small, and actually these small details matters a lot. That is your competitive advantage, because everyone does listing. How you will differentiate, how your product is different from others. Sometimes it's just a slight small difference, and sometimes it's just the matter of how you highlight your product. It's probably the same product as your competitors, but how do you highlight those points? How do you show this in the image? How you use the infographics? How you use the video? How you use the emotions in the video? So all those details matters a lot. I have seen similar products, just because of better listing, the one listing makes really good result, the other one does not do the same.
And just to add on to what you're saying, like when most people say like your business could go from like good to great, the one thing that they say to find is your unique selling point. And I think that those details is the unique selling point.
Absolutely. Yes. So those details sometimes are your unique selling point. So people say that you need to come up with something new. Well, if you come up with something new, that is a big advantage. But it's a very, very difficult idea to come up with something new. So what you need to do, you need to look for the product that already there, and maybe you do some fine tune, you add some improvement, or even just go with the same product but you market it in a better way. And that exactly, Fahad, as you said, the unique selling point, something sometimes is just your listing, the way you are presenting your product.
And so in these type of, like, when you're trying to scale a business, there's always some sort of risk, right? What do you think is like that one biggest mistake that really cost you?
So I would say risk is always there. I think the biggest mistake or biggest risk I see when people don't pay too much attention on their product research. Product research by far is the um, biggest make and break thing. So if you do a good product research and you get a good product, you choose a product which is not highly competitive. I see people look at the data and see, oh, this guy make 2 million or 1 million, and oh, it's all good data, but look at how many people are in that category. If you find a product which a lot of sellers making $100,000 or millions of dollars, they have probably thousands of reviews. Are you going to compete with them as a new seller or not? That is a big point. And I see is a big mistake. People just go with the keyword volume. Okay, this keyword have 100,000 volume in last 30 days, and the revenue, I see people making millions of dollars, so it's a good product. No. It can be a good product, but look at the competition side. There should be at least 20% of the listing organic, not sponsored, at least 25% which has less than 100 reviews. That will tell you that these are new seller, and then still they are able to rank on the first page. So your main target should be bring your product on the first page. If you can bring your product on the first page, your sale will be very, very high, because this is the game of BSR, which is the sales ranking, best sales ranking. And the biggest thing that affect the best sales ranking, of course, a lot of things, but sales velocity is the biggest thing. So if you can make a good sales velocity, sometimes in the beginning even don't care about the margins. Break even is fine as long as you can bring your sales ranking high. And as you improve your sales ranking, you can improve your pricing also.
So when it comes to selling on Amazon, right, you're saying best selling rate, BSR, scaling the actual product itself and finding what would get to that first page. But as a beginner, right, you don't have that like authority as a seller and as someone on Amazon, and you don't have those reviews. So how do you actually get to that point? Like, are you supposed to run ads? Should you run ads?
Very good question. So yes, as a beginner, your product will not be, ranked to come on the page one for sure. And if you are not in page one, forget about the sale. Like I would say more than 95% sales come from the first or maybe second page. So when you are a newcomer, your product will be somewhere on page 30, 40, 50, depending on the category. So what you need to do, you need to run the campaign, PPC campaign. Some friends, maybe they can buy your product and give you some reviews. But the main thing is run the PPC campaign. For example, if you're selling headphone, so everybody, like thousands of people are selling headphone. So everybody go for biddings headphone, and the headphone bidding becomes very high. And what does it mean? Like Amazon ask you how much you will pay if I show your product on the top. So everyone says, okay, I will pay 30 cents, 40 cents, 50. Whoever gives the higher number bid, Amazon shows his product on the top. So of course it's not only you, thousands of other sellers selling it, so the bid becomes very high, so the cost is very high. So that's why we do a good research and we come up with the keywords. Usually they are the long tail keywords. Their bidding is low, but still that gives you the opportunity to showcase your product on the page one. And we have those strategy how to fine tune. Usually first 2 3 4 weeks you just gather the data, and once you have the data, then you start playing with the data. You look for the keywords that making better money for you, and then you run a separate campaign with the exact keywords. So there are different kind of keywords, campaign, exact, broad, phrase. So I don't want to get into those technical details, but you run those campaign. Once you have some data for few weeks, then you look for the best keyword, you fine tune, and that's how your cost of marketing start going down and your sales start getting higher. And this is very important because your goal should be to bring your product on the page one or two. So to do that, you need to improve the seller ranking, and to improve the seller ranking in the beginning, there is no other way except the sales velocity. Once you have a better sales rank, you will start getting organic sales without spending on the marketing.
So to get into organic sales, I was going to ask you, is there a proper way to get organic sales in the beginning, or do you think that as a beginner, like how I said before, the biggest thing what beginners think about is the money that they have to invest? Ads are not cheap, they're very costly. And when you're investing that money as a beginner, you still think about the fact that, are these ads actually going to benefit me, right? And do you think that in the beginning you're able to do organic sales, or it shouldn't be an option and you should always go for the ad option and then think about organic sales later down the line?
So you get organic sales. So in the beginning, Amazon gives some time, and some people call it honeymoon period. So when you launch your product, and that is the most important time, by the way. When you launch, it's a new listing. Amazon gives some honeymoon period or some time to promote your product. So you get some organic sales here and there, but you cannot depend on that. That is your time where you can bring your sales rank high. So if you wait and you see like, okay, I'm getting 1 or 2 sales here and there, after those 2 to 3 months period that Amazon in the beginning try to promote your product, you will get no sales. So don't depend on the organic sales. You have to run the campaigns, and you have to do that investment. There is no other way. If you want to save the money, if you don't want to invest it, you will not see your sales rank going high, or you will not see the long-term success.
So would you just say that this is just a game of high risk, high reward?
I would still say this is the low risk and medium reward, and in some cases medium risk and high reward. Why? I compare it with the other brick and mortar businesses where you need to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then your operational cost, your overheads and everything, like monthly, your payroll, your bills and all that, tens of thousands of dollars, compared to e-commerce where your operational cost is close to zero, or like $40 you give to Amazon for monthly payment, and 15% of the sales. Of course, you give 15% when you sell something. So compared to those models, the risk is very, very low. And I think reward in the beginning is moderate to low, but as you scale up, it has a lot of potential.
So let's say you've scaled up to the point where you are right now. Is it not profitable? Okay, so let me backtrack a little bit. So Amazon, like how you just said, it has a 15% cut of what you get from the profit and revenue from each product, right? And you also have to pay them monthly. There's also fulfillment costs in FBA and additional things like that. So is it not more profitable to go from, let's say, you being established on Amazon to something like Shopify or your own account?
Okay, so let me explain you this. The cost of acquisition of a buyer or a sell on your own website or Shopify is very high, because you need to bring the traffic to your website. Shopify at the end is also a website. Of course, it's through the Shopify and it has some plugins and everything. But from where you will bring the traffic? Traffic is the biggest thing. Millions of people comes to Amazon, Walmart, Etsy, eBay, TikTok every day. So you get the foot traffic, or you get a lot of traffic compared to your own website or Shopify. The cost, again, I will say the cost of acquisition of resale is much higher than the e-commerce platform, because these platform, they're already bringing millions of sellers and buyers, by the way.
So would you compare that to something like traditional selling, where people, let's say people go to a mall versus like a shopping plaza, right? Or like a plaza that's cut off from like other buyers? Would you say it's something like that? Like Amazon is the mall that everyone's just walking through.
That is a good analogy. Yes, Amazon is like a mall, and a mall which is visible to every American. So it's a nationwide. Everybody has access to Amazon. So if you go to the mall or even a shop, so you have only a foot traffic. You are geographically bounded with people in the area only. When you go to Amazon or marketplaces, you are reaching out to a very big audience.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say are some trends that people should focus on?
So I would say don't run for trends. Don't chase trends. So mostly the trends are only for certain time period, and then you see that trend changes and then you have difficulty. Try to go for the product that are for long term. And I suggest also, I see a lot of gurus on YouTube. They say don't go for seasonal product, but I suggest for newcomers, go for seasonal products.
Really?
Yeah, and I'll tell you the reason. So what happens when you start? There are so many other sellers, right? Where you start with general products and so thousands of other sellers selling it. But if you are selling a seasonal product, you will have an opportunity, the peak period, where everybody is selling so high, and everybody is selling to the point that all the big sellers, they are out of inventory. And I have seen this every Christmas, and that's how I started actually. Let me give my secret. So what happens that during this season, high season, all the big brands, they are out of inventory, especially if they are doing from FBA. They send their inventory to Amazon warehouse. Once they are out of inventory, the new inventory comes into the system, and during the peak season, Amazon takes time, sometimes 3, 4, 5 weeks. And that is the point that where every other seller, their product has chance for good sales. So if you have some product that sells high in certain seasons, then you will get the advantage. And especially I would say the highest competition we get from the overseas sellers, not from the sellers in the US, especially from China, because there are two reasons. One, they have factories and they send everything to FBA, and their cost is very low. And second, their margins, they are happy with few cents only, because cost of living in China is very much different from here in the US. So what they do, they send bulk items to Amazon FBA, and then they charge very little profit. In most cases, it's few cents. You cannot compete with them in most cases, but we know, we have idea how to compete with them. And actually, once you understand how to compete with Chinese seller, then you are good, because other sellers, they are like you in the US. They will never sell for few cents because they have the same cost of living as you have. So your competition becomes very balanced. How to compete with China? There are a few things. First of all, always use FVM, means keep some inventory in your garage at your home. So once in the season, everybody is out of inventory. Even the Chinese seller, they cannot sell anymore because they are in China, but you are here in the US. You sell FVM, and believe me, you can sell thousands of units during the time period when they are out of inventory. So this is one of the strategy. We have multiple strategy to deal with the Chinese sellers. Another thing is value addition. If you can add some value that they cannot do that, because they can only work on the bulk volume, they cannot do single shipment. So you can do some value addition and send single shipment to the seller, to the buyer. And the other thing is the running the PPC campaign. You need to be aware of Chinese seller. So there are some timing where you can do your bidding high or low. So during the time when China is sleeping in the night time and your time in the US, you need to see those timing when they are not fine tuning, they are not monitoring their PPC campaign. These are the times where you can run aggressively for your PPC campaigns. So did I answer your question?
I think you did.
Okay,
yeah.
right.
And just to backtrack a little bit, I'm not sure if you said it, but what is the meaning of PPC?
So PPC is pay per click. So what Amazon actually is the similar model that Google also does. So you tell Amazon, I will pay you 30 cents or dollar or whatever bid you give, I will give you if every time a buyer clicks my products. That's why it's called pay per click. And you try to keep this cost as low as possible. Of course, there's so much competition, so you need to be very strategic about this.
And you choose your cost.
Yes, you choose your cost, but you need to look at the competition. For example, you are selling one product and you choose 30 cents for one click, but that product every other seller is giving a bid of 40 cents, then Amazon will never show your product on the first page because your bid is very low. That's why I mentioned that you need to come up with the long tail keywords that are still good but the bidding cost is low.
And can you tell like what other people's bids are?
Yes, you can see. You can actually, there are tools that can give you idea, and in fact Amazon also give you the range of the bids, and there are tools that tells you what is the sweet spot for the bid. As I said, don't run for the keywords which has high bids, because you will burn out a lot of your campaign money. So go for the keywords which has probably medium to low volume, but at the same time the bid price is low, because in the beginning you need to come up with the balance, and after 1 month or so you will have sufficient data that you can look at, and then you can decide which keywords are converting better, and then you can increase the keyword bid.
So for the people that like have their goal in mind, right, for the revenue that they want to make, let's say, would you say that the more bidding costs that there is the more revenue you're making, or is it like that a product with less bidding costs can make almost the same as the one with more bidding cost?
A very good question. So the more bidding cost does not mean that you will make more revenue. It's only reflecting the competition. It means a lot of people are bidding for the same keyword. So it does not mean if you bidding higher, you will have more revenue. You will have more visibility, but depending on the bidding price from the other sellers. So to answer your question, no, it doesn't guarantee that higher bid means higher revenue.
So let's say you're in a market where you're trying to fight that bidding cost, right? How do you think it just goes back to your unique selling point and fighting the competition?
So there are multiple strategies you can do. So one thing is the bidding cost. The other thing is also the conversion. You need to see you are getting a lot of clicks, but you are not getting a sale. What does it indicate? You bringing the traffic to your listing, but people are not buying. Then you need to look at your listing. You are missing something in the listing. Either you don't have good images, either you don't providing the proper details of the product, or maybe you don't have the A plus content. So when we talk about the PPC campaign, you have to look for the whole picture. It's not only the bid. If you have a right bidding strategy, it can bring the customer to your listing. So you have to look at the data. You are getting a lot of clicks but not conversion, or you are getting some clicks but you are getting better conversion. So the best strategy is to have a very good listing, A plus content and everything, so that you can get a best conversion. That will bring your marketing cost very low, because everybody who's coming to your listing is buying. Generally this conversion is very, very low. It's like somewhere between 2 to 5%, some cases even low. So you have a lot of potential to increase it. So if you can just increase from 2% to 5% or 5% to 10%, your revenue gets doubled. On the same marketing cost, you get double revenue. That's why this is very important. So there are number of factors that you need to look for.
So you'd say that those specifics are the reason that people really go from just looking at your listing to actually buying. So I want to ask you something. Did you do all of this alone?
No, actually I have a team. So I started alone. When I started 5 years ago during the COVID time, I started alone. Of course, I did my study. As I mentioned, my MIT certification for data marketing analytics, my MBA, my experience in sales and marketing. I've been working in corporate for more than 25 years. So all those experiences really helped me. But then in the beginning, I hired freelancers and I had some good and bad experiences. And that's why I suggest never hire freelancers or VAs overseas. But I see the freelancers, they have their own interests because they are working with so many other people and they don't really give proper time and attention to your products or your account. So I started building my own team, and last 5 years I was able to build a very, very good team. I have more than 20 people in my team.
Wow.
My core team is in the US, but I also have a remote team, and I have expert in every field, from graphic designing, search engine optimization, A plus content, PPC campaign, product research. So now I have a very good team, and that we help, of course, for our brand, and we help other business owners also.
So I've heard most businessmen and most people that end up becoming successful, they say that the biggest thing that helped them was realizing that you as a person aren't the best at doing everything in the business, and realizing that you need to outsource and find the people that can do better. But we all know this, and I'm sure a lot of people know this, but I want to ask you something. When you were initially working on your business, what would you say as a person, what was your shift in character or mindset that really helped you to drive this business?
So that is very true. So in the beginning, you need to wear all the hats, but as you mentioned, you need to delegate the work. So once you start your e-commerce journey, and I would say after the first launch, which usually takes 3 to 5 months, you should start building your team or giving your delegate tasks to other people in your team, or maybe the freelancers, because your focus should be the business development. I was doing everything myself, but then I realized that I was spending a lot of time in things that I could have easily hired someone to do that, and that's why I started creating my own team and everything. So this is very important point. I see a lot of people, they don't want to invest, they don't want to hire people, they don't want to invest in the tools. So again, take it as a real business, invest in tools. There are some really good tools available, as I mentioned, some product research tools, some other tools. So invest in tools, invest in your business, invest in people, and take it as a real business.
Let's kind of switch back to what we were talking about before. What do you think led to your biggest success?
I think persistency and consistency. I was persistent, I was consistent, and I never thought that I will fail. From the day one, I took it as a business. I prepared myself. I don't want to repeat my degrees again, but I did MBA, keeping in mind that this is a digital landscape. E-commerce is done on digital landscape, and if I know how to do digital marketing, that will be my competitive advantage. So my MIT certification, everything, I prepared myself, and I think from the day one I was pretty confident that this is doable. And when I looked at the number, it's much better number than the other businesses. Average Amazon US seller making 290K per year. So I see a lot of people talk about get rich quick scheme about Amazon, like overnight. Of course, it's not true. But on the other extreme, I see people talking about Amazon or e-commerce. No, it's dead. You cannot do anything. It's oversaturated. This is not true. The truth is somewhere in the middle. I myself, I'm very passionate about e-commerce because I have seen the success and I know what are the misconceptions, what are the do's and what are the don'ts. One of the biggest reasons for my success was that I prepared myself for the whole thing, and also from the day one I was very consistent. But you need to calculate your risk. You cannot risk everything. So as I said, when you start small. You start with multiple products and you do your good homework, you do your good research. So even if you fail, so if you start 10 products and you fail in 5 products, that's fine. Even if your one product is a hit, then you are good actually. So always take calculated risks. You will fail, but you will learn something from that failure because you will understand what was wrong, what you need to improve, and then you can come up with better option and better products. The good thing about e-commerce is the cost of failure is very, very low compared to other business. Usually you test products with very low inventory. So if you fail, you learn, and the cost of failure is very low.
So what would you say is that like sweet spot in like, so you're saying like test products in the hundreds. A lot of people say like whenever you're doing like how you said you initially started with seasonal products, right? People say that to just buy in bulk. But what would you say is that sweet spot in like, you know that maybe this won't sell, but it even might sell. So what is that sweet spot in like, I should buy this many products to actually test the product?
So I suggest people, especially when you're starting, go for 8 to 10 product or at least 3 to 5. So 3 to 5 is the least, but if you can afford, go for 8 to 10 products. And when you buy the sample or the trial inventory, don't buy more than 100. Keep it between 50 to 100. And when you test, you get the idea which one is getting a good sale. But keep in mind the long-term vision. What I mean by that, don't look for the cost of inventory when you buy in a smaller quantity. For example, when you are buying in a smaller quantity, maybe you are buying for $10. I'm giving an example. But you know, when you will go for the bulk, you know this will cost you only $5. So when you are doing your calculation, keep in mind your cost will be $5. So a lot of people do this mistake because for the trial version they buy small quantities, their cost is high, and they do all their calculation based on the cost of those small inventory, which is not correct, because for the long term your cost is going to be higher. I'll give you my example. When I started, the cost of the first product, and now the cost is almost 70% less than when I started.
Mm-hmm. That's good. And so I randomly had this question in my mind. This kind of jumps back, but you know how we were talking about marketing, right? And you were talking about PPC and different ways that Amazon can actually market your product. Do you think it's profitable to actually market it on social media and through influencers, like how a lot of people do?
Yes, actually this is a must. So if you are building a brand, and that's what I always suggest, go for private label and build your brand. And let me tell you why I suggest that. So if you have your brand, this is your long-term asset. And this is something that you can scale up and even flip. I've seen a lot of people, they sell their brand after, sometimes if you build your brand and you are at a point where you think that scaling up requires a lot of investment, then you can say there are a lot of people ready to buy a running business, and they are ready to pay the premium, because running a new business is really tough. So they are ready to pay a premium for a running business. So actually this is a model. If you build your own brand, you run for a couple of years, and then sell your brand or sell your account, and you start something new. To make a brand, you need to go into social media. This is a digital landscape. You need to have a very good digital footprint. If a customer goes to internet, they can see you everywhere: TikTok, Insta, Facebook, Pinterest, YouTube. You should be there. So that is the brand conception. You should be on the internet everywhere. Of course, it requires a lot of money, so that's why I suggest go small, go organic. Just do some social media posting. Don't run the expensive ads unless you have a product that can make a good money. But if you can go slowly, you can increase your follower base, and over the period of time you can see your social media grows, and then you see a real advantage of having a good social media.
So do you think that like leveraging social media should only be for a business basis, or should you as a business owner also leverage it and start personal branding as well?
Yes, you can do. Actually, it depends. So like consumer brands, usually you need to keep it separate from your personal branding. For example, if you're selling a consumer product, then you need to focus on those. And again, when I say focus on the product, it does not mean you are posting every day your product image. And so it's a 80-20 rule. 80% of time you need to talk about engaging stuff, something happening interesting, or something maybe related to your product, but not a direct sales. People don't like sales pitch every day. So you need to make a balance. So we say 80-20, or let's say you can go up to maybe 60-40, but you need to keep a big, a good balance. So you need to come up with the engaging content, but your personal branding you can do, but I would suggest it depends what kind of product you. If you are a consulting company, your personal branding matters, and then you need to do that. If you have some consumer product, then you have to do it in a different way. So every product has its own strategy, and that's what we do in our agency. We have a very good team for social media, and we handle YouTube and all other social media. So to answer your question, you need to focus on social media, but you need to keep a balance between the selling content and the engaging content. Or selling handmade product on Walmart, you will not see the traction. Handmade product you need to sell on Etsy. Personalized product you need to sell on Etsy. Auto parts you need to sell on eBay. Using wrong platform, so that is one problem that I see. The other problem is they do not focus on the details. They think like they have product, they created the listing, they should get the sales. No, it doesn't work like that anymore. It used to work 10-20 years ago, but now it's so much competition that you need to pay attention to the each details. So that are the two major things that I see the problem. For example, eBay is not good for anything other than some auto parts or maybe some used electronics item. So platform matters a lot. Let's come up with the brand, product line, what product line you want to go, create a LLC, pick up your domain, because look for the long term. After 5 years, after 3 years, it will be $1 million company or a $5 million company. You need to come up with this mindset. So you need to go from the day one as a business, pick up the domain name which is available. So when you pick up your business name, you need to first check if the trademark is available with the same name, if the domain name is available with the same name. From the day one, you will not be successful. So be consistent and you will see the result.
So would you say that the biggest mindset shift and thing that helps people become successful would be to just kind of lie to yourself in the beginning and say that you will become successful and not think that maybe I will become successful or like this might make me successful. No, I'm going to become successful.
This is very important. Fake it till you make it. So you need to tell yourself that you are going to be successful. I'm not saying that you are going to risk everything, but you need to have a belief that you are going to be successful and start with the success mindset. Failure mindset and success mindset, they are two different things. So when you start with the belief you are going to be successful and start as a business. So invest carefully, but then be consistent mindset, and you need to go with the idea that if other people are doing, I can do it. Like over 1 million people selling on Amazon only in the US. So over 1 million, and 50% are active sellers, and they are making on average 290,000 K. It's a very good number. So if average is 290K, you should think that you will be above average.
Wow. Did that ever scare you? The fact that there's over that many sellers?
Well, yes, in the beginning I was scared, but then I realized the online sales data, when you look at the data, the sales volume is increasing over time. So a lot of people, a lot of companies, they are shifting to e-commerce. So right now Amazon has a share of 16% of total e-commerce, and if you see e-commerce forecast, it's going to only increase in the future.
Mm-hmm. So you would definitely say that through technology and through everything that e-commerce is like, would you say that eventually that's the only place and the only market people are going to go to?
You mean Amazon or the online overall?
I just say online overall.
Well, I will probably say majority of the sale will happen online, but still there will be brick and mortar stores.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. Like there always has to be something physical.
Right, yeah.
Right. But so when I asked that, you said only Amazon. Do you think that other platforms aren't as profitable? Do you think that Amazon is the best platform?
So when I say Amazon is the biggest, but I can tell you, I mean, I give you an example. 2 of my client, they started in September last year. It's been like 3 months or so. Well, so one of them, she made close to 20K in 3 months on Etsy. The other one, she made almost 25 to 30K in 3 months. They both started almost the same time, but it was a season. So they started on Amazon within 3 months, just a startup, 20 to 25K. I can tell you now they can scale up by the next year over $100,000 annual. And once you have a good product and brand, I suggest to go to multiple platforms.
Okay, so lastly, Mr. Aamir, I want to ask you one last question. What do you think are the misconceptions that people in general have about e-commerce?
So there are many misconceptions, but I would say the biggest one is about the business model. So a lot of people, if you see the YouTube videos or social media, they talk about Amazon or e-commerce as a get rich quick scheme. So that is a biggest misconception, because this is a real business. This is not something that you can achieve overnight. But on the other hand, I see a lot of people very pessimistic. They discourage everyone not to do any business, or even like e-commerce or any kind of business, and they think it's dead. So there are two extremes, and I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. So this is a real business. It has its own risk and reward thing, but if you take it seriously and if you work properly and consistently, you can see the results. So what I tell people, at least 1 year you need to reinvest the money, whatever you earn from Amazon or Walmart, you need to reinvest to scale up. So give it some time and then you will see the results.
To go on your point that like people don't really realize that what they put in actually matters. When people think about e-commerce, they think about the fact that they can finally leave that 9 to 5 job, right? Working 8 hours per day. But most people don't understand the fact that when you go into like just business in general, e-commerce is one thing, but just business in general, you actually have to put it in more than the 8 hours.
That is very true. So in business, you need to give more hours, or at least like as you do it as a full-time job. So as we just said, it's not a hobby, it's a full-time business. So you need to take it seriously and give proper time. And the only difference, I would say, the flexibility. In office, you have to go to certain hours, sit there and, but in e-commerce or in your own business, you have that flexibility. So this is your own business and you see the reward when you put more hours, when you see the result, when you are able to scale up, you see the results and you see the rewards.
It does not harm you and you're always safe. And these are the two misconceptions, the two biggest that Mr. Aamir thinks. And let's move on to our next segment in where I'll give you some hot takes. So this is going to be a fire round. You're going to have to answer quickly and we'll go from there. So number one is Amazon actually saturated? Yes or no?
No.
Do most beginners fail because of bad strategy or lack of discipline?
Lack of discipline.
Is product research overrated compared to execution?
No.
Private label dead or just harder?
Harder.
If you were a beginner today, would you still choose Amazon?
Yes, I will.
Okay, that wraps it up. That was Mr. Aamir and our talk about e-commerce today. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much, Mr. Aamir, for joining us today. And we might even come back next time and talk about more about e-commerce or just business related things. And if people want to reach you, Mr. Aamir, how can they do that?
So Fahad, thanks for having me. So they can reach out to my WhatsApp number directly. My number is 713-501-6426. Our website is advancedsynergies.com, and you can email us at info@advancedsynergies.com.
That's great. Okay, so that's Mr. Aamir, everyone. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.